Hey, my name is Tiara. Welcome to my channel. Today in this video, I'm basically going to be explaining what I do when I sketch a little bit. It's more of a chatty draw with me. It's not really a tutorial. In the current moment, I've really just been drawing these miniature, I call them miniature sketches. And I find that it is a lot quicker. B, it helps me sort of stylize things a little bit, which makes it a little bit faster for me to draw the things instead of making everything too realistic. And it also helps me practice my drawing without the commitment of having to draw a full illustration. But yeah, as you see here, I pulled up a reference and I chose this girl with this gorgeous curly hair, and right now I'm really just trying to get down the gist of how she's looking and how she is sitting, like how her body is sitting. I usually find myself kind of blocking out, very roughly blocking out where I place the facial features, and I adjust from there. So if something is off, I just get a general idea of where to place everything, and then I go ahead and I will, as you'll see soon, refine the shapes a bit to make it look more and more like the reference. Though I am not trying to make an exact copy, if that makes sense. I'm just sort of trying to get the gist of it so I can be able to draw things a little more accurately without having to draw every little single detail that I see in the reference. I think it's really a good thing to zoom in and out of your drawings, just because you can kind of see the big picture of how things are looking versus zooming in too much and getting a little bit too into the details of how the work should look. I try to be more concerned with the overall, I guess, general shape of things. Also, something else, I sort of noticed that I start my sketches really light, and I noticed some other people actually don't do that, and I find that kind of interesting. I feel like I start really light, not only to see everything that I'm doing without like focusing on how thick the lines are, but yeah, I'm not really someone that does line art, so for me, starting really light in my sketches sort of helps me see everything that's going on without, focusing on the big lines, like I said. But yeah, you see I'm doing the hair, the curly hair. When I'm doing sketches, I find that doing the curly hair as more of a gesture is easier, and you don't have to focus on the hair as much. You kind of get the gist of what it's looking like. And it also saves you time, because you could spend as much time as you want just sitting there drawing every curl if you really wanted to. But I find that simplifying things kind of makes things look a little bit more satisfying. Here I'm kind of doing the eyelashes, and I make all these kind of lines on her face, but I feel like I put too many, so I end up erasing some, because too many lines can kind of make your character look a little bit older really quickly. So I usually portray like little dimples and things with like a small line, and then I leave the rest of that up to the shading for it to look more like a dimple. Yep, now I'm adding the shading underneath the jaw. It kind of makes things just look more interesting, really. And the sketch is just about done. It came out a little bit more stylized than I was expecting. I find that I sort of didn't get I didn't get the perspective as spot on as the reference, but I have a lot of things I have to work on, so. But yeah, here I'm just on Pinterest. I use Pinterest for my references to find good high quality photos so I don't have to search around. And I decided on this photo for the second sketch. What really drew me to this sketch is the bluish tones and the yellowish and orangish tones in there, as well as her red lips. It was just really interesting color-wise, but I also found her jaw really interesting the way that it looks. So yeah, I usually just start off with a circle and a line, and the line usually just indicates where the facial features are facing or where the face is looking. So I start by that, and then I cut off the sides of the circle. I guess you could say I'm using the Loomis method for drawing. That's usually what I prefer to do. But I don't follow every single, I don't follow every step of it, if that makes sense. It was kind of hard getting the perspective right in this one as well, because it's kind of, again, a weird-ish perspective. So in the photo, it looks like she's sort of looking off to the side, but her head isn't quite turned all the way to a 3/4 view. So I had to find some way to sort of indicate that. And then also, it seems like the photo was taken from more of a downward angle. So that's another thing that I was trying to portray. Oh man, I struggled with these lips here. I really like her lip shape. I think it's really pretty. I haven't drawn lips in that sort of way. They look so different and they're really pretty. I'm used to drawing more rounded type of lips, more like African American lips, if that makes sense. And these were it was different for me. They're really pretty. And so is the reference. She's so pretty. So yeah, I struggled with this a little bit, but I eventually get it to a place where I feel like it looks okay, but it definitely started off rough. I tend to have a lot of ugly phases in my art until I get it to where I feel like I'm okay with it. Some goals that I definitely have with my art is to get better at perspective and learn how to draw faces at more dynamic or more extreme angles. So yeah, that's something that I'm gonna start practicing. This nose also was a little bit difficult for me because I think mainly because of the perspective. And so I kind of resorted to shading to sort of explain or express what I see in the reference picture. And I think it turned out okay. I'm not feeling terrible about it, but this drawing went through a little bit more than what the last drawing went through. It took me a bit longer. And I think that's because I really just wanted to make sure it looked somewhat like her. Versus a little bit too stylized compared to the first one. The first one, it was okay, but I don't like how much I stylized the lips, for example. But this is all a learning experience. I made this eye way too far over, and then I'll end up fixing it later. I definitely remember that. I made the eye way over there. I don't know what inclined me to put it way over there, but yeah. Art really is just drawing, sketching really is just trying to sketch and then fix, sketch and fix. It just seems like it's just a bunch of that sort of cycle over and over until you get things to look how you want them to look. Here I am fixing the lips again. I definitely want to do more of these like chatty draw with me's, or ones that might be a little bit more informational or informative. Also want to do one that's more about like myself and who I am as a person, just so everybody can get a feel for the type of person that I am, and so they know what they're possibly signing up for. Doing these sketches in a smaller sort of size helps me draw faster, I've noticed. I've only been doing this for a couple days now, these miniature sketches, and it just helps me draw faster. And also, if I really like how the miniature sketch looks, I can go ahead and scale it up, and if I want to color it and make it a full rendering, I can go ahead and do that after cleaning up the sketch lines and everything, because when I scale it up, it'll get slightly pixelated, so I'll fix the lines and I can just color it in, make it look nice. Yeah, you see I'm using the liquify tool because I just couldn't quite get the lips where I wanted them to be, and I tend to figure out where I want things to sit sometimes by using that. Because sometimes when you're trying to draw lines or trying to move things over a little bit, it's easier to just slide it over with the liquify tool instead of spending the time redrawing it. I feel like I'm finally getting somewhere with the eyes and the face now. And now I'm going ahead and refining things a bit and trying to just make it look neater and a little bit more proportionate. Now I'm onto the hair, trying to get the hair right. Doing a little bit of the kimono. I think it's kimono, is it? At this point in the drawing, I think it looks not bad. Not exactly like her, but also not bad. I feel like this drawing was a little bit... It took me a longer amount of time, so I feel like it was a little bit harder for me in certain ways. I think it's mainly the perspective that was throwing me off. And I had drew a few other heads before I filmed this. Maybe my brain was just getting a little tired. But yeah, I feel like this is a good way to go ahead and practice your sketching day to day. Something small, not too big of a commitment. And here I'm just going ahead and adding in some shading. Just being a little extra. I went ahead and added the little detail of her teeth and everything too, because I thought they looked cute as well. Teeth can be tricky, you just don't want to make super thick lines in between them, or sometimes even omit the lines and just draw little triangles at the top for the gums. But yeah, this is my drawing, my two drawings, and I also end up showing a little picture of like the more dynamic drawings that I want to practice some more. But yeah, those are my two sketches for today, and I hope you found this sort of interesting or informative in some way. But yeah, if you like the video, please consider leaving a like or a comment and or subscribing. Thank you for watching.